chunks of metal could still fall to Earth and injure or kill anyone. And a spokesperson for China's space agency said, based on our calculation and analysis, again, they reiterate, most parts of the space lab will burn up during reentry. So there you go, folks. The space station going to come down. And some good chunks. There's a lot of water on Earth, so I'm hoping it splashes down in one of the oceans, the Indian Ocean or something just so remote. And usually that's the case, but there's the remote possibility, depending on where the satellite is in proximity to a geographical location. But somebody could be hit in the head or something. But I would imagine that if you're going to get hit by something falling that far, you wouldn't even know it was coming. But kind of scary to think. There's a lot of space junk floating out. You'd think that they would be able to have like a detonation device, that they would be able to maybe have something when they was going in reentry, just kind of blow it, to make sure that it was just, there was no remote chance. Maybe put some TNT. Can they do that? Put some TNT or something like that. Think through a little bit here. You don't even want to give it a chance to kill anybody. Do you? It doesn't seem like they really thought through all of that stuff. And given the NORAD, they have to sit there on their computers, and they have to monitor every single piece of space junk, and we're talking, folks, hundreds of thousands of pieces. And every time they launch, there's another something that's floating around in Earth's orbit. It's just a debris field. It's terrible. I always wonder, when they finally up and launch these satellites, which they just launched a bunch of them, 3 or 4 of them with SpaceX just last week. But how they launch them in a particular orbit where they're not getting, bombarded with junk on the satellites. But apparently they are smart enough to be able to find a course that gets them away from it high enough or low enough or whatever it is that there's just none there. But, man, if Waste Management can find a way to capitalize on getting out there with space androids and a giant dumpster, get one of the shuttles out of mothballs and put some giant space dumpsters and get that stuff in there, and then bring the stuff back down to Earth and melt it back down and reuse the materials. They're good materials. But to junk up space every single time? Are you kidding me? Nobody seems to be really addressing the problem, and it is a problem. Remember, the space shuttle got hit by a speck of paint, and there was a crack on the windshield they were worried about. A speck of paint. But think about a speck of paint, folks, moving in outer space at 17,000 miles an hour. Think about you going 17,000 miles an hour, getting hit by something on the highway. You know what it does when a bug pops you at 75 miles an hour? You feel like the windshield's going to pop, but how about a little piece of gravel that's kicked up by a tractor trailer? 17,000 miles an hour. All right, Hillary Clinton, she's on this book tour, still trying to figure out things for herself and for her base, for her fans, for anybody God will buy her lousy, horrible, loser book. It's got to be people that buy this book that love mediocrity, that celebrate mediocrity, and they just love Hillary Clinton. Well, on Sunday, she was defending the NFL players who knelt during the national anthem. She's saying, Well, she's going to say it in just a second, but kneeling is a reverent position. And, of course, she's overseas. She's got the book. It's called What Happened. And she's embarking on a foreign trip to promote the book all over. Whoever will do it, London, UK, all over. It's paying premium prices for the former First Lady, Secretary of State. Here she is.
So you have to resist what are very clear, what we call dog whistles to that base. That's what the black athletes kneeling was about. That was not against our anthem or our flag.
Oh.
That was actually kneeling is a reverent position.
Okay, so right there, it's a reverent position. It's kind of like, at a church where you're kneeling and you're saying a prayer. You're doing responsive reading if you're at the Catholic or the Lutheran church.
It was to demonstrate in a peaceful way against racism and injustice.
Well, I appreciate from a white woman to give the explanation for all the African Americans or minorities. Thank you, Hillary Clinton. Thank you for that explanation for Colin Kaepernick, what he started, and what all these players say that they're participating in. Thank you. What are you doing?
Criminal system. I think it would be a grave error for Democrats to recede from those fights. And so therefore we have to stand up, fight back, resist.
Wait a second. You just said that you were fine with it's like an oxymoron. Stand up, but you just said that the kneeling was reverent. But we have to who writes? Well, that was Ablib. It was again, there's some kind of short circuit going on in her head. I mean, this is kind of like the tour of shame. She's on this book tour of shame. I can't believe that people will buy the book, spend $20,000 listening to her haggard voice, her angry voice, try to explain what happened. We already know what happened, Hillary Clinton. We know. We know now, especially, that you didn't listen to your husband, but you didn't listen to America. You didn't understand the problems, and you didn't understand it when you were in the White House as First Lady. You were too busy making sure that you were set monetarily. You didn't care about America. Bill Clinton certainly didn't, and you didn't either. You were busy making sure, and by Weinstein's money, you care so much about women. 28, 29 women have come forward on her first hour. We talked about it. She's not giving the money back. Well, that's part of the problem. You want to be part of the solution. You're trying to make things better. That's certainly not a way to do that. I mean, people will judge you on your actions. And that's another issue for the Clintons. Their actions, they have been greedy. Have been amazingly greedy. If you want to read about the greed, by the way, of the Clintons, Clinton Cash, great book, but it breaks down all of the scams, if you will, all the corruptness of the Clintons when it comes down to their money, their charitable foundation, the Clinton Foundation, the foreign money, and the gifts accepted, and who, and the names, the countries, etc. But they got wildly rich in the White House, and remember, they were broke after all the lawyers and stuff like that for the Monica Lewinsky case, et cetera, et cetera. They were broke. Then now they're all so rich. And then the book, I'm for a loss for words. People can buy the garbage. There's people that celebrate mediocrity. And people like to be there to lament. And for whatever reason, there's some people that like to be in the pig's trough. And that's exactly where the Clintons were bringing America. And there's too many of Americans still today that are so dumb they can't see where these politicians, under the direction of the Clintons, etc., and Barack Obama, have used their position as the president to steer this country to a hell. And this nonsense that is going around in the media, George Lopez, I don't know if you've heard it on social media, but it's blown up, and this is another backfire. This is just as bad, if you will, regarding white privilege in our country. Comedian George Lopez booed off the stage for juvenile diabetes in Denver last week over an anti-Donald Trump routine that fell flat with the crowd. He says, we're told that the flap began when Trump backer and Liberty Media CEO Greg Maffel donated $250,000 but requested that Lopez cool it with the anti-Trump jokes at the ball. And there was folks that were buying tables for $5,000, $100,000 to benefit the Barbara Davis Center for Diabetes. Good cause. But there's a YouTube video that's showing George Lopez was asked nicely to stop making Trump jokes by a man in front row who just donated $250,000. But George doesn't stop. He gets booed, though. But this is what happened after the boo. His apology.
Listen, it's about the kids. All right? I apologize for bringing politics to an event. This is America. It still is.
Oh, good thing.
All right? So I apologize to your white privilege, but yes, I'm sorry.
He apologizes for the white privilege. Well, geez, thanks. George Lopez told a joke about Trump's proposed border wall with Mexico, saying, I guess you can get some Mexicans to do it cheaper, and they wouldn't crush the tunnels underneath. Ha, 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 ha. Nobody wanted to hear it, though. And so many people are turned off from late-night TV, I won't even watch it. Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon or any of the other late-night shows, I don't go there. And definitely not George Lopez. I mean, yeah, I tuned in just to see if there was anything different with the opening monologue with the Tonight Show. And nope, forget about it. I mean, he just went on, joke after joke after joke. And they weren't even funny. It was just, they were ugly, demeaning, demoralizing jokes. It wasn't even humor. But you get the, clap. You get the light. Audience clap, laugh, sound like you really are really enjoying yourself. Ridiculous. I'm fed up. He got booed, though, and he didn't expect that. And then he calls it white privilege. Well, by the way, George Lopez and white privilege, there's millions of Americans that happen to be white and are living paycheck to paycheck. They're not able to afford their bills, and there's no white privilege in that. Increasingly, the middle class has been dwindling, even though the economy is getting better. There's going to be a tax deal made or where people can start making some more money, and that's terrific. But there are more people, whites, that are not doing so well at any time in history. There's a lot of struggling whites out there. It's not just blacks anymore. It's whites and blacks and Mexicans and Chinese. White privilege. White privilege, give me a break. Is that why Hillary Clinton? Is that why Hillary Clinton is not in the White House? Because of white privilege? Is it white privilege that Donald Trump is in the White House? Or was it that they disrespected Barack Obama when they didn't vote? Because remember, specifically, I'll never forget it when Barack Obama said this. And if you don't vote for me, Well, if you don't vote for her, then I'll take it as